Hi, we're Murren and Jared, and we travelled Europe for 3 months in our camper van and enjoy making videos to share travel tips to help you plan your trips. One of the highlights of the trip was the famous Murren via Ferrata. This had the most breathtaking views and it was an amazing adventure. Here we talk about what the hike involves, how we got there, as Murren is a car-free village, how much it costs, and also some of our own personal tips that we found from doing the trip. I'll leave some timestamps in the description so you can skip to the parts you want if you need. But before we get into the details, I think it's important to know that this Via Ferrata is dangerous and it has led to deaths. We think a guide is important for safety and everyone needs to make their own assessment based on their individual needs and capabilities. Once you get so far on this trail, it does become one way, and so it's important to not panic, and you never know how you're going to react until you're there. If you go with a guide, you do also get to do the zip line. So what did the Via Ferrata involve? The Via Ferrata takes approximately 3 to 4 hours depending on your ability. You start the trail by walking through this dark tunnel, and then when you get on the other side, it is a little bit of a walk, but not much. It starts out really nice and calm, you enjoy the look of the mountains, but then before you know it, you are scaling a cliff. The foot holdings that you see here, some of them actually feel a little bit loose, so make sure you're clipped in at all times. The scenery on this hike is spectacular. You have stunning views of snow-topped mountains with the bright green fields below you. This trail is full of adventure. We actually got to see some base jumpers, which was really cool, and there's lots of obstacles and terrain that you have to work through. The bit that I found the most scary part on the hike was this huge bridge that moves. It's also particularly hard if you're short because there's parts of the bridge that you can't reach to hold on to. Despite being terrifying, it was such an amazing trail and we were so glad we did it. So how do you get there? There's no cars allowed in Murren, so the only way to get there is by public transport, foot or bike. There's limited places in Switzerland that you can park camper vans for the night. We saw signs saying that they would fine thousands of Swiss francs if this rule was broken. So we decided to stay in Lauterbrunnen, which is a beautiful village, and they had an epic campsite called Camping Jungfrau. As always, I apologise if I pronounce any of these places wrong in the video. I will put the names up so that you can search the locations. We were really glad that we stayed here. We were only meant to stay for 2 nights, but we ended up keep adding on more days just because we loved the location so much. We'll try to make another video about this place. It's surrounded by stunning scenery, tasty food, and your walking distance from other activities in Lauterbrunnen, including Trummelbach Falls, which I'll put a link to. We chose to ride our bike from this campsite to the gondola station, which was about 5 to 10 minutes away. The gondola stops in Gimmelwald, then Murren. Once in Murren, you can take a really short walk to Intersport to collect your equipment, and then the Via Ferrata is a short walk from there. It's important to note that the end of the Via Ferrata actually ends in Gimmelwald. I think if you have a guide, then they may return your equipment for you, but if not, you need to allow time to return your equipment to Murren. So make sure you book your cable car appropriately for this. So how much does it cost? This is a rough approximate, just to give you guys an idea. So the campsite was about 50 to 60 Swiss francs per night. The cable car cost 30 Swiss francs per person, but this did include the trip from Gimmelwald back to Murren to take back the equipment and then back again. The equipment hire cost was about 30 Swiss francs per person. This included helmet and harness, but doesn't count for gloves or shoes. The Via Ferrata is completely free if you've got your own equipment, and then we saw varying costs for guides. So finally, our tips that we learned from the day. So first tip is consider if you want to hire or buy your own equipment. We opted to hire the equipment, but in future we're actually going to buy our own. Again, this decision needs to be made by the individual. This was our first Via Ferrata. We're not qualified to comment on safety of equipment, but in our personal, very inexperienced opinion, we were a little bit nervous about how worn the equipment looked, probably just because it's being used so often. So personally, next time we're going to invest in our own. I decided to wear walking boots, which I found okay. Grippy shoes are definitely an essential. The advantage that I would say of hiring the equipment was the lady in Intersport was so helpful at telling us what we needed and if what we were wearing was suitable. So whether you're hiring or buying your own, it may be worth speaking to a guide or expert for that advice. Tip number 2 is allow lots of time. If you are renting equipment, they won't rent it to you after a certain point because they want to ensure that you'll be able to return it to the shop on time. From memory, I think they stopped us from about 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's worth calling them before getting the gondola just to check the timings and check that they even still have equipment, because they said they do sometimes run out later in the day if it's busy. Tip number 3 is check the weather. It sounds like common sense, but we were really taken back by just how quickly the weather changes in the mountains. It started a really nice hot sunny day, but it ended in a thunderstorm. Luckily, we had finished the Via Ferrata by the time the rain came in, but I can't imagine just how slippery those metal fixings would have been if we were caught in poor weather. Tip number 4 is explore Murren. It's worth allowing enough time for this as it's such a beautiful village. We stopped for a hot chocolate and dessert after the hike, and we would definitely do it again. Final tip is think about if you want to film it and how. We brought the DJI Osmo Action 4 camera, which we love for activities, including underwater. It's not so good at filming dark locations, but otherwise we love it. You hear of stories of people dying for the sake of a photo. I can't express how much we needed both of our hands on this Via Ferrata, so we wouldn't have felt comfortable with a selfie stick for this hike. We used the chest mount, which we felt was a good way to get videos for a keepsake, as this hike was definitely one of the most amazing, best things I've ever done. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please let us know what you think in the comments. If you've got any questions, if this is something you would like to do, or if you've been on any other Via Ferratas. We're new to YouTube, but we'll be posting videos soon on our other adventures in Switzerland and Europe, so please follow along if this is something you enjoy. Hope to see you in the next video.